Raider Nation, what's good? Jesse Merrick here. Welcome into another episode of the Silver and Black Sports Network podcast. Today, we are diving into the matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. And to help us do that, we're going behind enemy lines and bringing in Sterling Holmes from Sports Radio 810 WHB out there in Kansas City. And man, was he great. I get it that this matchup does look real rough on paper, but he helped us take a deep dive into the Kansas City Chiefs, explaining how they have actually turned things around after starting 1-2 on the year. What's the biggest difference been for them? What has it actually been? Well, look, we know the offense has turned things around, but what exactly are they doing? Yeah, Sterling helped us explain that and more. Plus, we take a look at what's been working for them on defense as well. We get into how the Raiders can actually win up front and who they should attack in the running game to get action going. And we also talk about where the Chiefs' biggest weakness has been in coverage as well. And Sterling also dives into how he thinks Spags will game plan against Geno Smith and this offense as well. I had an awesome time chopping it up with him. He was fair and did a really great job explaining the ins and outs of where the Chiefs are actually winning lately. This is not your normal preview. So kick up your feet and take a listen to our preview of this weekend's game against KC. All right, Sterling, let's dive right into it, man. Raiders and Chiefs, this is always a fun matchup. I know Raiders fans were probably a little excited seeing the start that the Chiefs had, but they flipped things around. They're now 3-3, have won 2 out of their last 3 games. What have you seen from them recently? Like, what's the biggest difference, I guess, for the turnaround for them?
The offense. It does coincide with Xavier Worthy being back. Obviously, he went out early. Game 1, Travis Kelce took him out on a little mesh route. But what we're really seeing is when him coming back, the intermediate part of the field has opened up dramatically. You're seeing Travis Kelce and Hollywood Brown, a smattering of Tyquan Thornton deep as well. Even Juju Smith-Schuster getting in on the action with his 28 going on 82-year-old knees. It's been very impressive. I think the offensive line, to me as well, has been a huge difference. You're seeing Josh Simmons look incredible as a rookie. You saw Jalen Moore step in and do a really nice job against Aiden Hutchinson with Josh Simmons out. You're seeing Kingsley Suamataia, who failed at left tackle last year, not given a great chance, just full transparency, become and grow into a really good left guard. Jawan Taylor is stopping the penalties at right tackle. He's finally lining up correctly, which we've been yelling at for years. Line up correctly. He finally is. And it looks like Patrick Mahomes just trusts his offensive line. He's going through his reads. He's not looking to bail out of the pocket immediately. That, to me, has been the biggest difference is this offense looked more like 2022 than it did in 23 and 24. And, oh, yeah, Rashee Rice is now coming back.
Yeah, we'll get to Rice in a second here, but you mentioned Worthy. I mean, look, that has been a total game changer for them. I saw the stat out there that since Worthy returned, Mahomes has thrown for 845 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, and has had 2 rushing scores as well. So Worthy obviously been huge for him. But as you alluded to, the big news this week that everyone is talking about it, Rashee Rice comes back. What does he add to the offense for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I don't know which way to lean in this particular game. Does the first pass go to Rashee Rice? Does he play 80% of the snaps? Are they going to try and force feed him a touchdown in the red zone? Part of me says yes. And then the other part of me says, hey, let's ease him back in. I mean, he missed the majority of last year with an ACL injury and then 6 games. I think it's 23 games it'll be since he's last played with Kansas City. So it's been a long time off for him. The rest of the offense is looking really, really good. Do they ease him back in? That's the way I think I would roll. But knowing Andy Reid, I still remember when they went out and signed Josh Gordon off the street and they immediately tried to give him a touchdown in the red zone. I could see that being the case as well. What he does do is open up the middle of the field for everyone else. He is the slant king. He is reminiscent of prime Michael Thomas, if you will. So for me, I think Rashee Rice does add that aspect, even if he's not going to be involved a ton in the receptions and target part of things. It does help Travis Kelce, I think, a ton. You're seeing Travis Kelce become maybe even the 3rd option to 4th option in this receiving room. That's huge.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I'm curious, what have you seen? You mentioned the offensive line. Over the years when the Raiders have had success in this matchup, it's because their front four has been able to get home and frustrate Mahomes. So what has been the biggest difference on that offensive line? And how do you think they do match up against Max Crosby and company, who are coming off of a good game, albeit against a Titans team that we all know, let's be frank, they just suck.
They have a left tackle. That's what it really comes down to. They actually have a left tackle now. I mean, last year it was Kingsley for 2 games. It was Donovan Smith off the street for a game. It was Wanye Morris for a little bit. And then eventually it was, let's put our left guard Joe Tooney at left tackle because at least we have a floor. And now you have Josh Simmons, who fell to the Chiefs because of the injury at Ohio State, the concerns of the torn patellar tendon. Is he ever going to be the same? Is he even going to play this year? It is shocking how quick that Josh Simmons has been able to not only come back from that surgery, that injury, but perform at the same level that everyone thought he was going to be heading into the draft if it would have been a year prior. So to me, Josh Simmons has been a revelation. Kingsley Suamataia has been great as, again, a left guard. Couldn't cut it as a left tackle. But even if Josh Simmons does not go, there's still some weird personal thing going on with Josh. He missed last game, and it was a very last-minute situation. So we're all hoping and praying for him and his family. We have no idea what he's going through. But even if that's the case, they spent $30 million for a 2-year deal for Jalen Moore. That was the backup to the Trent Williams with the 49ers. Everyone expected him to be the starter. Well, then the draft happened, and Josh Simmons happened. At that point, Jalen Moore, sorry, you're a swing tackle now. So that's been the biggest difference. You have Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Juwan is still there, and he's still solid when he's not committing penalties. But the offensive line just looks good on that left side. Patrick trusts that left side now, and that's why we're seeing this cohesion, I think, overall.
Yeah, and so the right side of that offensive line then, I mean, how do you think that kind of matches up, I guess, with Max? Because a lot of times we do see him lining up there on the left side of that defensive line. Granted, they have moved around a ton, but how do you like that matchup in terms of Max Crosby versus the right side of your guys' offensive line there?
Hate it. Yeah, Max Crosby, he eats. He's damn good. We know that little relationship, that rivalry that he has with Patrick Mahomes. They get into it all the time. It's fun. They respect the hell out of each other, and it makes it fun as a fan. I think even fans in Kansas City have nothing but the utmost respect for Max Crosby. Hell, I think I've heard most Chiefs fans say, we want him to be a Chief. Not many Raiders that I think Chiefs fans will acquiesce and actually say that. So, yeah, I'm nervous. You're always nervous about Max Crosby. Juwan Taylor, again, this is a game where I hope that he doesn't try and get too quick of a first step. Because you'll see that against good pass rushers where Juwan doesn't trust himself. He's good enough. In a nutshell, Juwan Taylor's good enough. But to me, it's a mental side of not trusting his athleticism to get back into where he feels like he can slide and protect. He doesn't want to give up that quick first step. And when he goes against guys like Max Crosby, Brian Burns, list goes on, that's when the penalties start to arise.
Yeah, no doubt Raiders fans are hoping that Max can eat. That would be huge for them to be able to have a shot in this game. We did talk about the fact, and you alluded to it, that bringing Rashee back, opens up that game in the slant game for him in particular. He eats a lot in that. And the fact that they were attacking in the middle of the field against the Lions is something I think Raiders fans really got to watch out for. Diving into this one, he really took advantage of the linebackers in coverage, it seemed like. He actually completed 13 to 17 passes for 165 yards and a touchdown in that game against the Lions versus those linebackers in coverage. So, how did you see them really taking advantage of the middle of the field in that game?
Yeah, I just think that's what it's kind of the both sides thing where it's like you see the Chiefs take advantage of the Lions linebackers, right? Because I think Juju Smith-Schuster did a great job there and Travis Kelce. And then you saw the Lions take advantage of the Chiefs linebackers against Nick Bolton in pass coverage. It seemed like that was both teams' game plan in that one. I don't know. Again, I think Travis Kelce being back and losing a lot of weight has helped out in that linebacker way. When he's going up against a bigger bodied guy, even last year, it worked. You could almost keep up as a linebacker against Kelce because, let's face it, he was kind of fat last year. That's in his words, okay? That's in Travis's words. He lost a lot of weight and looks a lot quicker, and you're seeing that little shimmy shake and the little almost NBA Hakeem dream shake still work now at age 36. Yeah, Raiders linebackers against Kelce, not even counting Rashee, you have to be wary. But if you're the Raiders and you're Geno Smith, you're Jacoby Myers, you're probably sitting here going, we might want to attack Nick Bolton in coverage because if Nick Bolton's getting downhill, I like his chance against Ashton Jeanty, who, as great as Ashton Jeanty is, it sure seems like the Raiders offensive line has had their struggles. So if you can get downhill quick and get Ashton before you can get a full head of steam going, and Nick Bolton gets downhill quick, I kind of like that matchup.
Yeah, that Raiders offensive line has definitely struggled. I want to get to that in a bit here, but I want to stick with the Chiefs offense a little bit more here. You did mention Kelce, and the fact a lot of people having a lot of fun with him, the whole Taylor Swift stuff and engagement and all that, saying his mind's on anything but football. As he said, he's kind of starting to kind of get rolling here again. But has he struggled this year? Like, where have you seen him maybe kind of taper off a bit more? And how can the Raiders slow him down, I guess, is the big question.
Ooh, I would say the first few games of this season, maybe if things aren't going right, he's had a couple drops. The game against the Eagles, I mean, the Chiefs probably win that game, but he dropped a ball in the end zone, would have been a touchdown into the Raiders' hands. And then he didn't hustle back, and you saw him get frustrated, and you saw him yelling, and like he's had a couple of games this year where it feels like the frustration has bubbled over, and maybe it's because he's just not what he once was when he was younger. But I will say he's much better this year than he has been the past probably 2 years. So it's just a fine line. Again, what it comes down to is he is no longer the number one target on this Chiefs team. If he has to be the number one, that's when things go bad. And that's what was going on, I think, when the most frustrations were getting the best of him. Xavier Worthy was out, and he was the first option on this team yet again. And he's just not apt to handle that. I just don't know what the Raiders could do. I don't think Travis is going for 100 yards or anything like that, but I think Travis is going to sit in that 50 to 60-yard range, maybe get a touchdown, maybe have 6 receptions, but he's just no longer the focal point. And without him being the focal point means there's less emphasis on him. He's getting more one-on-ones, and we're seeing actually the yak ability return to him. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to beat the Raiders, but I don't think he's a guy that you're like, no, he's going to be Darnell Washington out there,
Yeah.
or John. I guess Geno Smith had a good year last year, but just a tight end. Just name a guy and who's not going to hurt you. He's now a top 5, top 7 tight end in all of football. He's just no longer number one.
Yeah, no longer the guy. And I think that's something, again, Raiders fans love to hear. No doubt they're still going to have to watch out for him, but I think the big focal point, like you said, Rashee Rice coming back, they're going to have to find him and Worthy as well, because the corners have struggled in coverage at times. Obviously we know what Patrick Mahomes can do in the passing game. I'm curious what you've seen out of the Chiefs running game. Mr. Angry Runs himself, Isaiah Pacheco. What has he shown you so far this year?
Well, he's been better the past couple games, but this has been a misconception for a long time, and I think he fools people. I like Pacheco, the guy. I like his story. He's fun. He's just not that good. And that's I think a lot of Chiefs fans are starting to come to that conclusion of he has no vision. He runs hard, but just because you run hard doesn't mean you're actually breaking tackles. And that's what it comes down to. He has this 4.3 speed, but it never shows up in the game. It just never shows up on tape. His knees are going too high. He'd be great for ladder drills, right? He'd be great for those ladder drills. But
you can see it the way he runs. It is funny watching that. Like, that's a really good way to put it.
It's just he's not efficient. He's not explosive. He's been fine the past couple weeks, though. Kareem Hunt has been really good in short yardage situations, but he's not going to be super explosive. He had a couple actually tough runs the past couple weeks, about one a game, that makes you think, oh, he still has a little juice left in him. Rashard Smith's the interesting one. He's a young rookie, 7th rounder, used more as a pass catcher than anything else. He can make a guy miss, but they're still very wary of giving him many carries. He was a receiver the majority of his career in college. But Pacheco will get the majority of the carries. Kareem Hunt in short yardage situations with a smattering of Rashard as a pass catcher. If you're the Raiders, that's not what you have to be worried about. I don't think you'll get beat by. I mean, they couldn't beat the Giants on the ground with these guys. There are holes, and that's where I think Chiefs' frustrations have lain. Is they're rushing for about 4 yards a carry, but you put a good running back there, and they're probably getting 6 or 7 because they're almost all light boxes, and there are some holes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like the Raiders have sold out to stop the run in every game that they played this year. So obviously I think it has to take a different approach. They haven't played Patrick Mahomes just yet, obviously. Herbert was playing MVP caliber football, obviously, when they took him on. But Patrick Mahomes is in a different sphere. Give Raiders fans some hope, all right? How do they slow down Patrick Mahomes in this passing attack?
It's Max Crosby. What it's going to come down to is I think a lot of it would be penalties. If Jawan Taylor, who the past 3 weeks has been really good, Jawan Taylor has cleaned up the penalties and has played at a high level, and it's been great. It's been fun to watch. It's okay. This was the guy the Chiefs thought they were getting a couple years ago when they brought him in from Jacksonville. But if the penalties return, and it kills a drive, that's how it would start. It would start with it's 3rd and 6, and the Chiefs pick up a first down. But oh wait, it was an illegal, formation by Juwan on the right side. Right now, the Chiefs' offense is just humming at such a level we've not seen since 2022. I'm not trying to be a homer because we didn't feel like this even 4 weeks. 4 weeks ago, we didn't think of this. Chiefs fans, we did not think this at all. Yeah. It just felt like it clicked, and it's been fun. Like last year, the Chiefs went 15-2, 15-1 in the regular season in games they tried when they had their starters in, and it was a grind. It felt like every game was just ugly, and I know, woe was us. I know, going 15-1.
Raiders fans are sitting there thinking that, yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is every game was a one score. We all knew it was unsustainable. You can't win that many games where variance goes your way, where you have blocked field goals or the Raiders doing the illegal formation, just all of that stuff. That's not sustainable. This year feels different. Even when they lost to Jacksonville, you're sitting here going, yeah, but man, that offense looked really good. Yeah, it was a 99-yard. It could have been 35, but Devin Lloyd made a play, 99-yard touchdown return for a touchdown. The Chiefs' offense, to me, looks very reminiscent of 2022. And so if you're the Raiders and your secondary is not playing at a high level, it all comes down to the pass rush, and you have to bring Patrick down. You can't let him slip out like we saw a couple of times against the Lions, where he slipped out of Aiden Hutchinson's hand and then made a 25-yard pass to Hollywood Brown. That can't happen.
Yeah, no, it definitely can't. And look, I mean, you're not being a homer at all. You look at the numbers, they back it up. I mean, he's got his best passer rating since 2022 and his deepest air yards per pass attempt since 2018 as well. Like, he's cooking. He's playing at a different level. Like, let's call it what it is. I know Raiders fans don't like to hear that, but, like, this guy's back to form. They have actually created a lot of, chunk plays as well. You mentioned some of them there. How have those kind of come about thus far?
Tyquan Thornton's been a big part of this. Tyquan Thornton was a second rounder with New England. Somehow New England said he's not good enough for us. We're going to cut him. I don't know if it's change of scenery or not playing with Mac Jones at the time, and going from Mac Jones to Patrick Mahomes might make a difference. Although Mac Jones is throwing for some yards out there in San Fran, but still, point remains, Tyquan has come to Kansas City, and especially with Xavier Worthy when he was out, really stepped up big. Again, the games weren't always going the Chiefs' way, but once or twice a game, Patrick would hit Tyquan for a 25, 30-yard gain, and something I noticed was he's always open. There are other opportunities, and as it's gone on, Patrick's hit him more, but with Worthy back, we're seeing less Tyquan, but Worthy has still picked up the slack there. What's been intriguing is Juju Smith-Schuster has a couple times a game will have a 10-yard catch and turn it into 20. Yeah. Hollywood Brown has been a really good intermediate route runner, which has been nice to see. Yeah, to me, I think early on, some of those numbers were bolstered by Tyquan Thornton, and we'll see how much he ends up playing in this game, but it starts to at least seem to me he's playing about 25 snaps versus the 50 he was playing earlier in the year. But even those 25, if he's not getting the ball, defenses are attracted to Tyquan because unlike, again, not trying to take a shot here, but guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, no team trusted that he was going to come down with the ball. He dropped so many that eventually they said, we don't care. We'll put one guy on him. If he catches it and beats us, he does. Playoffs, he did. Regular season, though, he would always drop those balls. Tyquan catches it, which has been a big difference.
Yeah, no, it definitely has been. And I think, in this game, it's probably one of those ones where the Raiders will try and get home with 4 and sit back and keep everything in front of them. Tackling just has been an issue here and there for them. For the most part, I think they've cleaned it up more than they have in years past. That's a great deep dive there on offense. Now let's flip to the Chiefs defense. Something that surprised me was that they were able to out-physical the Lions. What did you see from them in that regard in that game there on Sunday night?
I think there's been a little bit of a misconception about the Chiefs, especially over the past probably 3 or 4 years, where they were a finesse team. There's been an effort for them to get a lot more physical. Now, I know we're talking defense here. On the offensive line, though, you had Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco fits into that mold as well. And then when you look at the defensive side of the ball, Nick Bolton is a very physical linebacker. Drew Tranquil might be a little bit on the smaller side, but Drew Tranquil is very physical. Shamari Connor at safety is a very physical safety. You look in the cornerback room, Jalen Watson, very physical, great tackler. Trent McDuffie, a little smaller, great tackler, very physical. I mean, I just think there's been a misconception for a little bit now with KC as far as them being finesse, because I think that has changed to them, at least at a minimum, being balanced. But yeah, they somewhat bullied the Lions. First two drive, the Lions bullied KC. They did. There was no two ways around it. But what Spagnuolo figured out was, we're not getting pressure with 4. I'm going to have to simulate pressure. I'm going to have to create pressure by sending an extra guy somewhere. A lot of times it was Nick Bolton. Sometimes it was Leo Chenal, who's having a great year as a third linebacker for KC. So once he figured out what the Chiefs weren't doing, Spags, the genius that he is, says, all right, now I know we can't get pressure with 4. I'm going to switch it up. And from that point on, the Lions really had no answer.
Yeah, Spags is definitely one of the best in the biz. It seems like, and I saw this, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're moving Chris Jones around a lot or experimenting at edge with him a bit too. What have you seen from him? It sounds like maybe the move is to keep him inside.
So this has been a thing for a few years now. He wanted to be an edge rusher a few seasons ago, predominantly because edge rushers get paid more than interior defensive linemen. He was really bad when he played out there all the time, and eventually they said, no, we're done with that. We'll put you out there in obvious pass rush situations. I personally don't love it. I know what they're trying to do. I know what he's trying to do. He picks his matchup. He picks the worst offensive lineman and says, I'm going against you. I get that, but you're still getting double teamed. So how much does that really help? It's trying to help down with the double team rate when he goes and plays edge. I understand that the nuances behind it. I just think he's so much better on the inside. On the inside, when he rushes from the inside, he's a top 2, top 3, maybe the number 1 interior pass rusher in the NFL. When he goes to edge, he's top 10, top 15-ish, top 20-ish. Like, he's still good, but I don't think you have quite the advantage, and he's not great in run block or run defense when he's outside on the edge. He's a decent run defender on the inside, surprisingly. I think that's kind of a misconception with him as well. But yeah, he's playing a lot of edge, and I just don't love it quite the way I think. But the issue is, it's either him and George Karlaftis, and the rest of the defensive line has been just abysmal.
Yeah, so obviously, the Raiders' offensive line going to be circling those two guys. This is a matchup, look, let's just call it what it is, like, that very clearly favors the Chiefs. The Raiders' offensive line hasn't looked great many times throughout the year thus far. But where have teams had success against the Chiefs' front throughout the season so far? Maybe an area the Raiders can hopefully try and, capitalize on.
What's funny is the Chiefs have good raw numbers stopping the run, but not great efficiency numbers stopping the run. Like, when you look at Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they held them to combined, 90-some yards. Jahmyr Gibbs ran for 3.8 yards a carry. You look at what Saquon did, 88 yards rushing. But then you start getting to some of the efficiency numbers of when it's like 3rd and 3. Well, they pick it up. Like, that first drive was Jahmyr Gibbs just going for 3.5, 4 yards a carry, just 3 carries, and picks up a first down. And so you're like, okay, yeah, the raw numbers look pretty good. The averages look pretty good. But if they keep picking up first down every time they get 3 carries because you're not making a splash play, well, okay, what's the difference here? So if Ashton Genty can go for 4 yards a carry, the yards per carry might not look great, but he can still get it done if there's not a penalty or them moving themselves backwards by trying to run a play action and Chris Jones sacks Geno Smith. So I think the Chiefs' defensive line has been the biggest issue for them all season long because Mike Dana, Christian Gelati, the rookie, Omar Norman-Lott, the rookie, Jerry Tillery, Derek Nottie, those guys have been really, really bad. And that's just not by the eye test. You look at PFF as well. That's just a data point, not the end-all be-all. Derek Nottie is 119 out of 119 defense tackles. Charles Omenihu was like 118 out of 120, and I think Mike Dana was 119. I mean, the numbers are just brutal for anyone not named Chris Jones or George Karlaftis in the defensive line. So as bad as the Raiders' O-line is, I don't know if you have to worry that much.
Yeah, look, that could be music to Raiders fans' ears because obviously that's been something that's been a touching point for them, throughout the season thus far. So we talked about Genty and just this rushing attack. For the first time this season, we see the Raiders stick to the run. 32 rushes compared to 23 passes in the last game there against the Titans. They really stuck with it. It wasn't the most effective in the world, but they made a point to continue to run the football. How do you like that matchup of Genty versus this front seven for the Chiefs defense?
Yeah, again, it comes down to, one, what the Chiefs do if they try and run a more traditional 4-3, which they did against the Lions, right, with Leo Chenal in there, and that worked out fairly well. Or if they try and roll with Shamari Connor in the slot, and then you'll have Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson and Noel Williams, the rookie corner, who's been outstanding out there. If they go lighter, I would like the Raiders' chances. If the Raiders stick with it, I think over time they'll do well. The issue is if the Chiefs get a lead and go up 10 points, man, that's not the way to go. So you got to do it early, and the defense of the Raiders has to step up early and not get behind quick, because I do think the run game can work for the Raiders. You just have to stick with it.
Yeah. That's a big thing. And then obviously, look, on the flip side, everybody knows that Geno has been struggling. 10 interceptions this year. Not the guy that I think many people expected they were getting. Usually a very accurate passer. He was in the previous game here against the Titans. But again, the caveat I have to keep saying is that was the Titans. The Chiefs obviously a very different team. What have you seen from Geno Smith, and how do you think the Chiefs go about attacking him and maybe take advantage of the fact that he's been very turnover prone?
Yeah, I've been very surprised because I was a guy who was high on the Raiders. I actually think I had the Raiders third, maybe in the AFC West. I was pretty high on the Raiders. I thought that they had a chance, an outside chance of making the playoffs going into this year. I thought they might be 9-8, 8-9. I was pretty intrigued by them.
Yeah.
And Geno Smith has just thrown all that away. Now, Brock Bowers being injured has been a major factor, right? I think that has been huge. No Brock Bowers. Michael Mayer's a fine tight end. But I just think Spags is going to send the house at Geno. The Chiefs' cornerbacks and secondary has played really, really high-level football. Again, Christian Fulton, who was a fairly touted offseason signing, who I was thrilled by, was a healthy scratch because a rookie is playing so well in Noah Williams. I sit back and I go, if you send simulated pressure, because I still don't think the Chiefs can get pressure with four. Even against this Raiders offensive line. Yeah. If they start sending Nick Bolton on these blitzes, which they have been more and more effective doing, man, if Geno makes a mistake or two, I don't see how they can stay in this game. That's why I say if I were the Raiders, I'd stick with the run, try and make it as ugly as possible, because at least with the way Geno's played recently, I don't think you can count on him.
Yeah, no, I mean, you really can't, which is, again, surprising for me because I, like you, thought that they were going to be a much better team than we'd seen in recent years. I had them around that 8-9 win mark, and obviously that hasn't been the case for them thus far. So I'm curious too, obviously, so they're centering the house, they're blitzing, obviously there's going to be a lot of man coverage there. Their corners have fared pretty well in man coverage, and do you like that matchup against the Raiders receivers that are lacking a true number one?
Yeah, I do. And it's funny, I like Trey Tucker a lot. I think Trey Tucker is a really solid player. And we actually saw him, was it last year or 2 years ago, burn the bleep out of Justin Reed. Well, the Chiefs got a little younger back there, and they got a little smarter, saying, hey, we're not going to put a safety, a slower safety, a very good player, but not put him one-on-one with one of the faster players in the NFL. So they let Justin Reed walk. They've got a little younger back there, a little quicker overall, outside of Shamari Connor, who's a good safety, but just not as a slot guy. I like Jacoby Myers, and he's a good possession wide receiver over the middle. Maybe you try it to attack Nick Bolton in pass coverage. I love Nick Bolton. You can see the Mizzou helmet behind me. I went to Mizzou. Bolton went to Mizzou. Love Bolton, but he's not great in pass coverage. That is his weakness. We saw it against the Lions, and I would imagine that if the Raiders will try that with Mayer or Jacoby Myers tried something over the middle there. But when it comes to the cornerbacks, I love the matchup against Myers and Trey Tucker. The reason being, they've locked down Malik Neighbors. They made life hell for him. They locked down A.J. Brown. They locked down Devontae Smith. They've locked down, to an extent, Brian Burns. I mean, maybe not as much Brian Burns as the others, but they've been really, really good locking down legit number one wide receivers. So I think, a team full of 2s and 3s, it's not a great matchup.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it sounds like, as we're talking this through, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you think maybe this is an opportunity for a guy like Michael Mayer, the tight end, and possibly Genty to get involved in the passing game. As we said, maybe it turns into those ones like against the Lions where they're both attacking the linebacking core in coverage or going for the middle of the field there.
Yeah, that's what I would do. And it worked. I mean, Laporta had a nice touchdown. Now, granted, it was a great throw and catch in the back of the end zone. Shamari was in great spot. But yeah, I that's what I would do. I hate doing it, but I would attack the linebackers in that way. It also depends where you have Shamari Connor. Shamari Connor is a really good safety. He's not good in the slot. And the Jags, I'm trying to think who else it was. Oh, and the Chargers did a great job. They put him in this, they put just, quick guys against him, and he got torched. So if you can somehow get Trey Tucker on him, or even to an extent Jacoby Myers in the slot against him, that would be a matchup that has the potential to be exploited.
Okay, that's a good one to keep an eye on there. I like the inside look on that one. We'll see if the Raiders can get Trey there in the slot. So we've dove into all of this matchup here, man. Now, and I can gather where you're probably going to go with this one. I need the game pick. I know it's early in the week, but what do you think happens and why?
Yeah, I think the Chiefs win this one. I think rather convincingly. they've won by pretty big margins this entire season. They're 3-3. When they lose close, and they've won big. It's been the opposite of their method for years now. Normally they win close, and they never blow anyone out. Now we're starting to see these double-digit wins. I think I'm probably about there, a double-digit win for KC. I don't think it's a great matchup for the Raiders, but again, it's the AFC West. It's rivalry. Anything happens. The Raiders play the Chiefs close. There's been a lot of games where you think, even the Derek Carr days, and you're like, oh, yeah, man, the Chiefs have this one. They look so much better on paper. And then they go out and either the Raiders win or it's a very, very close game. I don't know this time around. I like Pete Carroll a lot. I like Ash and I like the Raiders pieces, but I've been let down too many times by, which is funny as a Chiefs guy, trying to tell people that the Raiders are better than they look. So I guess this time around, I'm going to go with what they've shown me. And what they've shown me is the Raiders just not there yet.
Yeah, hey, look, you probably garnered some fans in Raider Nation for saying that, being a Chiefs guy that at least still, has been carrying the torch for him a bit there. So I know they'll appreciate that one. Sterling, man, we appreciate the time. Great deep dive. Before we get going, tell the people where they can find your work and what you got cooking for the week leading into, up to kickoff there.
Yeah, so I did the midday show here in Kansas City, Sports Radio 810 WHB, on there Monday through Friday, 10 to 2. A lot of Chiefs coverage as well on some podcasts. Arrowhead Addict. You can follow me on Twitter at HomestretchKC as well. But a whole bunch of Chiefs coverage coming your way. A lot of fun stuff. We'll dive a lot deeper on the Chiefs side of things if anyone cares. I don't know if Raiders fans care. They probably don't. But if you do, I like to think I'm pretty unbiased in this regard. So you can check it out on either at HomestretchKC or Arrowhead Addict.
Hey, man, look, you were fair in this entire thing. Played both sides of it well. So I think if people want to do some more recon, they really do got to check it out. Sterling, thanks again, man. We appreciate the time. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You see what I'm saying, guys? Sterling was great. And for a Chiefs guy, he gave the Raiders a lot of love as well. You guys know that's hard to find, and I respect that. Now, we did dive into it, but Rashee Rice is going to be huge for this offense as he returns. You guys have heard all about his return from everyone else out there breaking this game down. So I'm not going to belabor the point, but look, in his last eight regular season games, he's racked up 61 catches for 749 yards and has 5 touchdowns as well. He's been cooking. The Raiders DBs are really going to have to step it up in this game if they have any shot at winning or even keeping this thing close. You heard Sterling. I think that they do get him involved quick. Andy Reid doesn't like to ease guys back in. So Caillou, Eric Stokes, and Isaiah Polamau are really going to have to be on it in this game in coverage. We've seen them have some struggles, Caillou in particular. But look, he did have a good game against, the Titans as well in that game. But look, the Titans are not the Chiefs. Their receivers, Calvin Ridley, wasn't out there. So it's going to be a test for them. So they have to play well in this game. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day at the office. And we will be diving deeper into that whole matchup later this week when we catch up with Ted Wynn from The Athletic. You guys know him. He breaks down the tape better than many out there, and he really knows the Raiders as well. He's got a podcast of his own. So keep an eye out for the episode of that one dropping on Friday. And as always, do please make sure you check us out online at silverandblacksportsnetwork.com and subscribe to our free Raiders newsletter, and also like and subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you guys are listening to us. If you did like what you heard, hit us with that 5-star review and leave a comment as well. We appreciate all of those things, guys. And as always, we do appreciate you watching and listening to us, however you're taking us in. Now, a quick programming note on the way out of this one. I am going to be out of town this week on some other business, so I won't actually be down at Raiders HQ this week. However, I will be covering things remotely, and our podcasts and newsletters will drop as scheduled on Friday. You're just going to see a little bit of a different backdrop if you're actually watching our Friday show. It's not going to look great as the Silver and Black Sports Network studios here. But hey, the show must go on whether we're on the road or not. I think you guys are going to enjoy the guest and the podcast that we do have there with Ted. It's going to be a lot of fun. In the meantime, though, guys, do take it easy, and we will see you on Friday.